Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if you're new here. In this video, we're going to go over some common causes of nail peeling. I'm going to insert some images here that my Instagram followers so kindly sent me and let me use for this video so that you guys, see some examples. I'm mainly going to be focusing on things that are lifestyle related causes of peeling, as there are other health related causes of peeling that I obviously cannot help you with. I am going to lightly go over them just so that you guys are familiar with them, but understand that I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be able to give any kind of advice in that sense. Your nails take a long time to kind of quote unquote replace themselves. So nail grows from here in this direction. So the nail that is at the tip is a nail that has been around your finger taking a beating, let's say for about 4 to 6 months. It depends on many factors how fast that happens. Anything that's currently at the tip of your nail is something that happened months before, and anything that you change today might take some time to take effect. So just keep that in mind, that the nail, a lot of things you cannot fix, you have to prevent or just grow them out. Peeling is one of those things that the main thing to worry about is preventing it, as very little can be done once the nail already peels. All right, one thing that we need to go over is the structure of your nail. And I have a little visual here because I don't know how to draw. Your nail is not just one layer of something. It's actually many, many layers of keratin. So if you look at this, if I put this here, pretend that this is my finger, pretend that this is my nail. If you were to look at it on the side or towards the tip, it's just a bunch of little layers. So whenever peeling happens, what's happening is that the layers are separating and they're just ripping apart. Let's say that if I were to, this doesn't rip very easily, but pretend that this is lifting or flaking off. The layers are kind of like disheveled. So that's basically what you're looking at when you see a nail that's peeling. Now I want you guys to keep this in mind because this structure is going to make a lot of sense when I keep explaining. Now, one of the main things that causes nails to peel, and let me explain how that happens, is water overexposure. So I believe it's like about a minute. If your nails have submerged in water for about a minute, think about like if I drop water on this like a sponge, it's gonna swell up. So those layers swell up, and then when the nail dries, they come down. Swell up, come down, swell up, come down. The constant opening, swelling and flattening, swelling and flattening of those layers, if that's not balanced out, that ends up causing peeling at the tip. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen to everybody, but it's a very common cause. That's why we saw peeling nails spiked after the Pandora. I don't know if I'm so allowed to say that word on YouTube anymore or not. We were all washing our hands a lot more than before, and that caused a lot of people to experience peeling that had never experienced it before. So it is something that is such an easy fix that you can do right now. It's lifestyle. Anybody can do that for the most part, unless if your job requires you to have your hands in water. If you are able to lower the amount of exposure to water, I think that's going to greatly help your peeling. Your body has oils by itself, and the oils on your body are able to travel right along the layers of the nail. But sometimes when you have a lot of water being absorbed and removed, all of those oils get stripped out of the nail. So it feels kind of weird because you're thinking, well, water is supposed to keep things moist, but it doesn't. What ends up doing is strips the oils off of the nail. I want you guys to think of the nail as dead material. Right after the nail comes out, this is dead. It doesn't hurt. You can cut it. You can do whatever you want with it. It's kind of like your hair, right? It's just like a dead material. And as a material, you can think of it like a piece of wood or a piece of leather. Like if you have a leather couch, you apply oils to it to keep it nice, right? So it's not like stiff or whatever. And then if you have wooden furniture, there's oils for the furniture to keep that dead material looking good. The same happens to your nail. If the natural oils of the nail are stripped from the nail plate by water overexposure, you are responsible for putting those oils back. And that's a big reason why we talk so much about oiling the nail community. I know in mainstream, everybody talks about oil for your cuticles, quote unquote. That's a conversation for another day. It's not even called cuticle, but that's fine. And in the nail community, we know that that's not the reason why we oil. We oil for the nail. Let's say that you have water exposure and the nail swells up. When you finish and you dry your hands, if you apply a little bit of oil to that nail, it really helps the layers get back into place nicely. Now let's go on to issue number 2. Remember, this is how the nail looks like, right? When you buff the surface of your nail, okay? This is what you're doing. You're basically removing layers of that nail, right? removing layers of the nail. Now, if you were able to buff your nails in a way that did this evenly, perfectly evenly, you might not experience peeling. But what happens when you buff is that it's not even. What you end up doing, I'm gonna try my best to do something here. You end up doing something like this. Now when you think of this, you're buffing. And when you finish, this is what you have. It looks smooth when you're doing it. It looks smooth when you're doing it. As soon as water touches this nail, swells up, and when it comes back down, it's not gonna look very nice, right? It's like if you grab a book and you flip through the pages, a lot of times, like a book that's very, very used, the pages never fall back how they were originally. Or you grab a stack of paper, of like printing paper, you know? When you take it out of the packaging, it looks brand new, but if you take them all apart and try to put them together, they're never really as smooth and even as they were originally. When you buff, you're basically removing pieces of your nail. It's never gonna be done properly, right? There's no proper way to remove pieces of your nail. But I'm saying, like, it's not gonna be even. You're gonna do it in a way that if you were to zoom in on your nail really, really close, you end up seeing something like this. And like I said, when the water comes in, so it's a mix, right? The water exposure makes everything worse, but if you are on top of that doing things that are causing more issues to begin with, it's a very bad recipe. Now, this is something else that you can stop today. And there are other issues that come with buffing. Let me explain another thing, which is not related to this video, but that is nail splitting. Now, the only cause of nail splitting is absolutely not buffing, of course. I have a nail here that has damage at the matrix, is coming with a very strong ridge, and sometimes when it reaches the tip, you see that line? So there's many reasons why a nail can split. But here's one reason why a nail splits. That's also something that you are causing that you can stop. So this is, if we zoom in on a nail, it looks like this. If you were to zoom in even further down, further down into this, you would see that the nail is actually not flat, like I said here. But if you zoom in even further down, the nail is actually like this. Let me tell you why. This is the nail bed, which is where the nail plate, which is this. People call this the nail bed. It's not the nail bed. This is your nail plate. The nail bed is underneath. The nail bed is actually little, quote unquote, train tracks, if you will, that are like this. And then when the nail cells come in, they basically are running down the train track, right? Because the nail bed doesn't move. That's part of your finger. These are lymph-free wipes that I'm trying to use as a little model here because I couldn't find anything anywhere that models a nail. The nail plate runs down the tracks. Obviously, it's not just one. There's more, right? The matrix continuously make nails. So imagine if this was very long. You keep, right? It runs like this. So I wanted to give you that background. On the inside, if it looks like this and you buff it, let's say that you have very ridgy nails. You think they're ridges. They're not really ridges. They're more like grooves because the top of your nail is the strongest part of the nail. And as you age, it's not that the nail grows out into ridges. It's that the nail dips into grooves, right? But if you want to buff it out so that it's even like this, what you're really doing is you're buffing out those little mountain peaks. You're doing this. When you buff it, you're removing them, right? So this is what you're doing to your nail. Let's say that I buff the top of my nail. You really are doing this. You're removing them, right? And however you want, because you're not buffing evenly by any means, right? So when you buff the surface of the nail, you really are removing pieces of it. And you don't see that because everything looks good, right? But then as this grows in, this is what's left at the tip of your nail once that grows off of the free edge, okay? Now, maybe you're not buffing enough, but maybe you are buffing enough that you're causing this. You're basically splitting your ridge open. Add to this water overexposure, which is like every time your nail absorbs water, any imperfections or any cuts or anything that's inside of your nail plate just swells up and becomes bigger, okay? So this is another issue the buffing can cause. It doesn't mean that it's going to cause it for you because if your nails don't have enough ridges so that the buffing causes you to cut basically the tip of that ridge, maybe you're okay. Maybe your nails are more even. Like mine right now are very ridgy. You become the nails get more ridges as you age. It doesn't mean that everybody that has more mature nails is gonna have ridges, and it doesn't mean that if you're young you cannot have them. I want you to like think about them. An analogy is gray hair. There's people that are older that don't have gray hair or have very little. Then there's people that are very young that have a lot of gray hair, and there's people that are in the middle. So nothing of what I'm talking about here is absolute. Humans are very different. But in general, as we age, we get more ridges. If anybody's in their 40s, you might experience like I am now. I never had ridges in my life. Now I do, which is fine. I don't have a problem with it. I just work around it. So anyways, if you happen to have very ridge nails and you think the fix is to buff them out, congratulations, you now continue to have ridge nails because that's not stopping. But now you also have a split to deal with. The things that we've covered right now are common causes of lifestyle things that you're doing that possibly causing issues. They're simple things to fix. You want to, number one, stop buffing, especially if you have ridges. Stop buffing. You want to oil your nails after water overexposure. And I mean, if you wash your hands for like 20, 30 seconds, you're fine, I think. But the second that you're like doing dishes, taking a long shower, even if it's a short shower, if you're bathing your baby, if you're bathing your dogs, doing chores around the house, and your hands are completely wet, you need to do whatever you can to put oils back into that nail just to help it. Because like I said, I don't know if I said this, but I thought it. If you leave the nail alone, it'll be okay. But you're not leaving it alone. You're adding water, you're adding chemicals, you're adding things. So if you want to keep it in good shape, you need to balance that out with the oils, okay? You can use jojoba oil, you can use coconut oil, avocado oil. There's a couple other oils, but those three are just the most common ones, cheaper and easy to find, that will do the job. It takes a nail from 4 to 6 months to grow all the way, right? So let's say that you were buffing and you were doing all these things. This is your nail right now. You need to wait for all of this to grow out and get rid of it. And then stop doing what you did to make it be in this shape. So this doesn't happen again. So you're stopping the buffing, the water exposure, you're starting to oil, all of that for the nail that's coming. The nail that's already broken, there's nothing you can do about it. Now, there are things you can do to help so that this nail grows out without you making it worse along the way. I have a video, I'm gonna link it up here, that is the OBI repair mode. I tested that on my own peeling nails and it worked very nicely. It was not a sponsor video. They sent me the product, but I've bought that product on my own many times after I bought it as a gift for my friends. It's a great product in my opinion. And I have all my results linked in that video. And basically what it does is sips into the nail and it kind of like all these layers that are like just fraying, it keeps them together. It does a really good job at keeping them together. It's not a glue, but if you think about it, it kind of works like a hypothetical glue. It seeps into the layers of the nail and it kind of like makes them stick together. That allows you to grow this out without causing further damage to the nail that's coming. Because if you don't do anything, chances are you're gonna end up doing this and now you push the damage up. The nail now has to grow out. If you by any chance decide, oh, I'm just going to buff this out, what ends up happening, you are gonna buff further. Which means that damage that you're trying to get rid of, now you're bringing it up. I don't recommend that because it's very hard for people to be as surgically precise as you need to be to only buff up to here. You end up buffing more. Now you cause the problem, right? Even more. So that product allows the nail to stay in place so that this can grow out, you can get rid of it, and then you have a good intact nail. If you don't have access to that product or it's not in your budget or you cannot get to it, whatever reason, if that project's not a thing that you can get your hands on, which is fine. Also, I mean, maybe you get your hands on it, doesn't work for you how it did for me. There's a bunch of people that it's worked great for, and then nothing works 100% for everybody, but it is an option. If you cannot do that, one thing you can do is always make sure that your nails have at least a base coat, which is what I'm wearing right here. Just because that helps, is a layer that you have here that stops them from doing this and further bringing in the damage, right? But if you don't want to wear polish, because let's say you're one of those people that nail polish gives you surface damage, right? You don't want to make something worse. What you can do is just try and leave it alone. Don't try to like do this and cut it. Obviously it wouldn't be with scissors, you would do it with like a nipper or something. Because usually when you put something under here, you're lifting it more than you think. You basically need to leave this alone and allow it to grow out. So now I want to go over other things that can cause peeling that are more health related, and I'm gonna cover them just for the sake of you being aware of them. The way the nail is made is back here, right? It's a little engine under here, it's called the matrix, creates nail cells and it pushes them out, right? The nail at the tip of course, is older, which means it's gotten more water exposure, it's gotten more sanitizer. It's just older overall. It's an older, dead piece of material. That's why most of the issues that you have happen at the tip. Not only is it because it's the free edge, the one that gets beat up, but also, it's the older nail. So it makes sense. It takes 4 to 6 months from a piece of nail when it's born here to reach the tip. And anytime you have an issue with your health, let's say you have a virus, your body is not, like, it doesn't have in its higher priorities to make your nails. So it is very, very common for people to have health issues and see a dip, which is what we call, I think is bow, how you say it, bow lines, which is like a ridge, but that's horizontal. That means your body at some point in the last 4 months, 4 to 6 months, stopped making as much nail as it was. And you might see a line here, like that. Because it's basically lower production of nail, and then that grows out, and then your body's like, oh, I'm back to normal. It happens when people get the flu, if you get a virus of some sort or some other health issues that are temporary, right? Your body's like, meh, I'm not gonna make nails right now. It's not a big deal. And then it goes back to normal. So that's why sometimes you see, again, if you see a horizontal line here, it's probably like 2 to 3 months ago you were sick. I say all that to say that when your health is not in good shape, your nails take a beating because it is not your body's priority to make your nails. This is not special to nails. It also applies to your skin, to your hair, to everything. Diets that are low in protein, it is very common for people to have weaker nails if their protein intake is too low. Nails is made of keratin, and we need protein to make that, right? It doesn't matter how many times you want to apply keratin topically. That's not how things work. How you get the keratin in your body is what matters. Like, for example, and Anna from Salon Life always says this analogy, and I think it's genius. Like, if you need to make muscle, you don't grab a piece of chicken breast and rub it on your hand. That doesn't give you muscle. You need to eat that chicken so your body makes the muscle. The same is true for your nails. It doesn't matter how many times you want to put keratin on your nail. That doesn't mean a single thing. You need to eat a nutrient-dense diet that has the material that the nail needs so that the nail can just make itself, right? Doesn't matter. If you apply keratin on top of the nail, I think it's just maybe moisture. It doesn't really mean that you're getting keratin on your nail. It just doesn't work like that, right? It has to come from within. A diet's low in protein. If you have nutrient deficiency and things like that, it could reflect on your nails. That is not something that I can help you with because you would need to do maybe blood work to see if you have any nutrient deficiencies or any vitamins or something like that. Just me telling you get those little nail, hair, and skin vitamins, that's just a bunch of BS. It's just not going to help you. You're going to spend your money. You're going to waste your money. Another thing that people ask all the time, can I take supplements? Look, that's a conversation that actual people with degrees have had. I'm going to link some videos down below of other doctors here on YouTube. Not other doctors, of actual doctors. But I said others because there's a couple of them where they have discussed current studies on supplements like biotin and things like that. And it's just not something that's concrete enough that anybody should be recommending to you unless if they don't know what they're talking about or they just want your money. So that's just straight up what it is. Biotin can help some people with their nails. It can help some people with their hair. Maybe it doesn't help you with anything. Maybe it helps you with both. It depends. It's not a set in stone thing that I can tell you to do. Like, for example, oil in your nails will for sure balance out water overexposure. That's a fact that I don't need to know anything about you to know that it's true. Whereas supplements is just not something that people should just be taking willy-nilly because a lot of times you're just wasting your money. Another thing with taking biotin that you should be aware of, it can alter it can alter your blood work, okay, on certain parameters. I don't know much about that, but if you are taking biotin and you do get blood work, you need to let the doctor know, hey, I'm taking this, just so that if they see anything funky, they understand what's causing it. Now, there are a couple illnesses that we know very, very well, very commonly, that cause peeling and weakening of the nail, and that is thyroid issues, and then the other one's Hashimoto. Those two we know. That is very, very common for people that have those two to also experience peeling and other nail issues. And if you have any of those two, I think at that point you need to be almost militant in how you deal with the other life issues that we talked about before, just so that you don't make it worse. It might not be completely avoidable, but it might be, if you're buffing, for example, don't do that to yourself. You're already having issues to deal with. You don't want to make it worse. And if you're able to oil, do that because you are going to help that nail that might just by the nature of your current situation be weaker, but you could do things to make it a little bit better. Now, we also know that certain medications have side effects on your nails. Please, if you're taking any sort of medication, just ask your doctor, hey, is this a possible side effect of what I'm taking? And if that is, then it is what it is. Like, nails are really cosmetic. You know, your medications are more important, right? So again, just focus on the lifestyle stuff. Now, as far as fixing, like I mentioned, the only thing that I know that can make it better until the nail grows is the repair mode and preventing. Prevention is key. Wearing your gloves, oiling every time you have a lot of water exposure. You need to be kind of like in tune with your nails. You need to pay attention to them and see what you're doing. One thing to keep in mind that can also cause your nails to peel. I almost forgot about this. Your nail file. If you're filing your nails with a nail file that's too abrasive, you're doing this. This is not the case. This nail's not too abrasive. It's pretty good. But I'm gonna just roughen it up and pretend, okay? Let's pretend that this was really bad nail file and you're doing things that cause the tip of your nail to kind of like be damaged, right? Like it's just not a smooth nail file. It's kind of like rubbing a freaking rock against your nails. It's really gonna like take a beating at the tip. It's really gonna cause this kind of thing. If the grit of the nail file is too rough, you're gonna cause issues. This could potentially, given again water, swell up, flatten down, swell up, flatten down. It could cause peeling. It could cause peeling. If this is the only thing that's causing peeling at the very tip, your nail structure's probably together enough that it's not gonna go much further, but you could see some of the tip. Imagine if you get like a nail file that's too rough and you try to file a nail that has splits, you're just gonna shred everything. Okay, so just keep close attention to what nail files you're using. We don't wanna use anything lower than 180. With nail files, the higher the grit, the more delicate they are. I personally don't like to recommend anything lower than 240 actually. Let me tell you why. There's some nail files that are 180 grit that are very good. And if your nail is in very good shape, and if your nail is very thick and strong, it will handle it fine. But if you grab a nail that already has issues, or a nail that's thin, or a nail that's brittle for some reason, and you give it a 180, and by some chance of earth, that 180 grit nail file is not very high quality, but just says 180, so you think you're safe. You're gonna shred that nail. You're gonna shred that nail unnecessarily. Whereas if you use a 240 or above, it might be a little bit smoother, you know, it might not damage you further a lot more. So even though 180 could be okay for most people, I personally don't like it just because the risk, you know, I know maybe it's because I talk to so many people who have issues with their nails. That's why they come to me, that I know what's out there. And I just don't want to assume that you have like very thick, you know, perfectly intact nails that can handle 180. Some people cannot handle 180. I have some nail files that I use from Amazon, and I like these because they cost me $11.99 for 12 of them. So for $12, I think, I mean, I'm a nail content creator, so I use these a lot. But I think for someone that's just doing one manicure a week, you can probably use one of these nail files for like 2 months. So a pack of 12 is probably gonna last you a good 1 to 2 years. All right, I've talked about a lot of stuff because sometimes I have to go on side tangents to paint a picture for you guys. Start oiling. If you're not able to oil, try to incorporate into your routine warm oil soaks. You basically grab some oil, warm it up, not directly, right? You warm up the water in one container and put oil in another container, sit it on the warm water. And when that oil warms, you sit your nails in there for 5 minutes. You don't need more than that. That little treatment, once a week, twice a week, is gonna do wonders. The overall health of your nail, and when I say that, I mean the overall look of the dead material that is your nail is gonna improve. There could be things in your lifestyle that you're not even noticing that you have, that you might not be able to stop. Say you haven't even noticed that you're hitting your nail on something at your job, that nail's peeling. There's things like that I cannot predict, right? A lot of times we watch things about research of an issue that we have, but we don't actually put things in practice, okay? So please try and put things in practice. Give your nails some time. Remember, peeling is something that is to be prevented. Don't buy products that are promising you to fix things. They cannot do that. Once your nail's like this, what are they gonna do? Patch it up? They cannot patch up. This piece of nail doesn't just, you can just put it there. No, it has to come from the matrix. It has to come from growing your nail. So just don't let people fool you into buying things that are just not meant to work. Like even the repair mode that I told you about, I'm telling you, it's not gonna fix the missing chunks. It's just a hack to temporarily hold these layers in place so that you can grow them out and make lifestyle habits that are gonna prevent it from happening again, okay? So please just keep in mind there's way too many people out there trying to get your money, promising you things that are false. And I also know this from my DMs because you guys tell me I have spent X amount of money on this and this and this and that. And I was like, if you would have come to me first, I would have told you to not do that, that it was not going to help. And this happens often on my DMs. Okay, so anyways, I probably didn't cover every single scenario on earth. I'm just covering the most common things for you guys to be aware. But yeah, thank you guys for clicking on my video. I hope it helped you, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.